So we're going to briefly go over the Glasgow Coma scale with some memorization tips and tricks. So there's three different components of the Glasgow Coma scale. There's eyes, verbal, and motor. The way that I remember this is there's 4 maximum points you can get for eyes. There's a maximum of 5 for verbal and a maximum of 6 for motor. So 4, 5, and 6. Oh, you can't see the hand. 6. There we go. So as far as eyes go, there are a maximum of 4 points. The best thing that you could be, so the way that I think of it is think of your AVPU acronym. AVPU, alert, verbal, painful, and unresponsive. You can pretty much just connect that to the eyes with Glasgow Coma scale. So the best thing they can be is for their eyes to be alert or spontaneous, open spontaneously. So alert or open spontaneously, that's a 4. 3 is going to be open to verbal stimuli. So you say something and they're able to open their eyes in response to that. 2 is open to pain. And then 1 is none. So again, there's 4. Open spontaneously or alert. 3 is open to verbal. 2 is open to pain. 1 is none. So that's it for the eyes. For verbal, there's 5 points you can get. So think of A&O times 4. Think of a patient that's A&O times 4. That's your patient who's alert and oriented. So the best thing that they could be, the thing that's been given 5 points, is oriented. If they're able to answer the A&O times 4 questions appropriately, or if they're having a conversation like I'm talking to the camera right now, they're oriented. That's a 5. So if you think of 5 as a patient who's A&O times 4, you could think of 4 as a patient who's like A&O times 2. Or basically a patient who is confused. So 5 is oriented, 4 is confused. This is a patient who is able to string words together and put sentences together. They're able to have a conversation with you, but they aren't totally oriented to the A&O times 4 questions, or they're just something's wrong and they're not completely oriented. So that's the again, oriented is 5, 4 is confused. 3, the way so 3 on the Glasgow Coma scale for verbal is inappropriate. It basically means some other scales like label it as sounds, or sorry, words. So they're able to say words, they're able to talk, but the words aren't appropriate to the situation. A lot of times it's just going to be like just like bursts of words, or like how are you, and they just apples, or they say something that's inappropriate to the situation. Oftentimes it could be like swearing or just random words or whatever. So the way that you can remember this is, if you're doing 5, raise your hands, then the middle finger, so number 5, 4, 3 is like flipping someone off, so inappropriate. So to flip someone off, to do that with your middle finger is inappropriate. And so you can remember the 3 on the Glasgow Coma scale as inappropriate words. So a 2 on the Glasgow Coma scale is going to be sounds or incomprehensible speech, depending on like which scale you look at. So either they're able to make sounds, but they're not able to form them into words, or just incomprehensible speech, basically the same thing. And then the 1 is none. So again, for verbal, you have 5 points. You have oriented, confused, inappropriate, incomprehensible, and none. So as far as motor goes, you have 6 points. The best thing they could be as far as motor goes is so the best thing they could be as far as motor goes is they're able to obey commands. In a patient who's A&O times 4 and they're alert, their eyes are open spontaneously, whatever, you don't have to specifically assess for this. But in a patient who is compromised in other areas, or for example, like maybe a head injury patient or something like that, you might want to actually test this by having them, can you move your fingers? Can you tell what finger I'm touching? Can you move your toes? Can you like that? And do your assessment of distal functions. And if they're able to respond appropriately and obey the commands, that's 6. And again, if they're just normally a normal person like I am, completely responsive, A&O times 4, etc., you can just automatically give them that 6. If they're starting to get confused, you're going to maybe want to assess that before you decide they're a 6. So 6 is obeys commands. 5 is a patient who can localize pain, or other skills say purposeful movement. So localized pain or purposeful movement. So when you apply painful stimuli, this patient is able to to reach up to the area, or to push your hand away, or to it is able to move purposely to try to touch the painful area or stop the painful stimulus. So that's a 5. So we have, again, 6 is going to be obeys commands. 5 is purposeful movement or localizes pain. And then a 4 is withdrawals from pain. So yeah, so we have obeys commands, purposeful movement or localizes pain, withdrawals from pain, and then the next 3 are pretty easy to remember. So we have, and these are all in response to pain. The next few are in response to pain. So a 3, 2, and a 1. Just think flexion, extension, and then none. So flexion, extension, none. And in other words, they have the decorticate posturing is a flexion, extension is a disturbed posturing, and then none is no response to pain. So again, for motor, you have obeys commands, purposeful movement or localized pain, withdrawals from pain, flexion, extension, and none. Every patient gets a maximum of 3 points. So a patient who's completely unresponsive, or like a cardiac arrest patient or whatever, is going to be a 3, GCS 3. The best thing that you could be, for example, what I am right now is a GCS 15. The total maximum points you can get on the GCS scale is 15. Least number you can get is 3. So in other words, just think of like the GCS of a table. Table's not open its eyes, table's not talking, table is not moving, that's a 3. That's a stupid question, but I've heard of someone having some question like that on the registry, so I don't know. But yeah, so that's just the basic memorization tricks for Glasgow Coma scale. If you're interested in a more in-depth read on each part of the Glasgow Coma scale, I'll link a video in the description, or link in the description.